Hey everyone, it's your broker Zach. So today I wanted to go over the best practices when you experience having to recommend a vendor. So a lot of times dealing with a real estate transaction, we're asked by a client, hey, who's a good roofer or who's a good inspection company or title company? So these are going to be the best practices to protect you legally. As your broker, I always have to look at it from the worst case situation and how to avoid that. So that's what I want to present today is how to better protect you legally when you recommend vendors. So let's dive into this. I'm going to present everything from the worst way to the best way. So this applies to this list here. So roofers, lenders, plumbers, whenever our clients are asking us for recommendations, it could be this list or many other people that apply. So let's look at the worst way. The worst way is telling someone or forcing them to use a specific company. So this red text would be from our client. So, hi, who do you recommend for an inspection company? And if we follow up with, you need to use ABC Inspection, they are the best. Well, can we see where a problem might arise with that? If we are forcing or telling our client to use a specific company, let's say ABC Inspection misses some giant foundation issue. Well, the client can go after ABC Inspections, but they could also probably come after you as well because you told them they have to use this company. So we want to avoid this. So this is the worst way. Do not do this at all. To make matters worse, if it's in writing that you're telling somebody to use a specific company in a text message or email, then that's going to be kind of an easy situation for a judge to look at. Second worst situation is a phone call. So even if you say it over the phone and there is no written documentation that you force them to, if that client has a bad experience and they go to a judge or go to a courtroom, they can still say, well, they still told me over the phone. So just avoid this situation altogether. Second worst, this is, I call the no context situation. So if we look at a text example here, and if this is our client, who's a good inspector, and this is us, and we say abcinspectors.com, although we're not forcing them to use ABC Inspectors, without any context, this could still get us in a lot of legal trouble if a problem arises. Again, this is just looking at the glass half empty. Situations do arise. It's not a problem until it's a problem, but we want to avoid getting there in the first place. So yes, we're not forcing them to use ABC Inspectors, but because we didn't provide any context, we just sent this to them. Maybe our client misinterprets this and says, I have to use these people. So this is still second worst situation. This is called the best of the worst, the opt-out. So again, who is a good inspector? If we follow up with, I've had experience with ABC home inspectors in the past, and previous clients have had good results with them. However, you can use any company you want. You don't have to use them. So now we're getting a little bit better. This is kind of an opt-out sentence that we've put here is, however, you can use any company you want. You don't have to use them. So a good practice too is if we have a phone call with a client and they say, hey, who's a good inspection company? If we say this over the phone, a good point over the phone is to say, hey, I've had experience with ABC home inspectors. I can text you their information. However, you can use any company you want. You don't have to use them. Follow up with a text message after the phone call to document and say, hey, just recapping what I said over the phone, good experience with ABC home inspectors. However, you don't have to use them. So create a paper trail for everything. Document any phone calls, follow it up with something in writing, an email, a text. And now let's jump into ways that are actually probably acceptable, and we'll get into the best version, which is next. So better, multiple options plus our opt-out. So if our client says, who's a good inspector? Previous clients have had good experiences with ABC home inspectors, 123 inspectors, and 456 inspectors. So now we've recommended 3 different companies. And we said, however, you can use any company you want. You don't have to use any of them. So this is, now we're getting into better protection for ourselves. We've recommended 3 different companies. We never told them to use a specific one. They can price shop, look up reviews, whatever they want to with these different companies. And then finally, let's get into the best method. And I want to actually shout out Heather for using this form recently. This is TAR has a good stance of there's probably a form for that. And this is one of the least used forms as well, is this vendor list form. So as you can see, I'll follow up who's a good inspector with, I'll email you a vendor list and form to review and sign. So now if we list different people on this form, let's look into what it says over here. So furnishing of any names of vendors provided by the brokers or brokers affiliated licensees is done as a ministerial act and only as a courtesy to the undersigned, and does not in any way constitute any warranty or representation as to the quality of the vendors, their services, or subsequent reports. The undersigned acknowledges that they had the option to select any vendor of their choice, including any not listed above, and that broker or brokers affiliated licensees is not responsible for any representation, guarantees, or warranties of the selected vendors or their services. For good and valuable consideration, the receipt and sufficiency of which are hereby acknowledged, the undersigned herewith release the broker and the broker's affiliated licensees and or his employees from any liability or claim arising out of or in connection with the services of the vendor. So this form is basically ironclad. When you start using this, say, hey, who's a good inspector? I'll email you a list and you can review and sign. List your different companies, ABC Home Inspectors, 123 Home Inspectors, have them sign. This is the best way to protect yourself legally. And then just to wrap up, other good practices, document everything. So like I said earlier, follow-up phone calls with a recap in writing, document everything. This will protect you. Or if you have random forms, whatever else, you can add signature boxes on those forms to have your client acknowledge they've actually received it. Second tip, stay in your lane. So I was taught this really early, but we are realtors. So if we stick our neck out with starting to offer to make repairs or do any legal stuff or whatever else, that can get us in a lot of trouble. Stay in your lane. We are a realtor. Stick to scheduling. So avoid any billing. Avoid if the roofer talks with your client and they say, hey, I'll send the bill to your company and then they can work on getting us paid later on. Like, no, we don't want to deal with that. Have the client and the vendor figure out the bill, they pay for it. Avoid trying to add on additional obligations, more risk. And then the last bit, no kickbacks or referral compensation. So again, this is falling into federal rules and everything else, but don't have situations where, hey, if I send you this client to use you as their lender, you give me money back. Like, that's not allowed. So no kickbacks, referral compensation. If you follow these practices, document everything in writing. And then if you use this TAR form, you're going to be best protected whenever you're making recommendations for vendors. So hope this helps you guys out, and I'll see you guys next time.